to HR in the Fast Lane. Today we have Tim Padgett, CEO and founder of the Pepper Group. How are you doing today, Tim?
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on the show. You know, it's one of those things, if you don't know Tim from the Pepper Group, let me tell you a little bit about him. He's an entrepreneur, started this business 21 years ago on the forefront of one of the top agencies in Chicagoland for 6 years running, according to B2B magazine. And he's essentially a leader of this business from a cultural standpoint, which is why I dig him personally. They've been recognized as one of Chicago's 101 best and brightest companies to work for 2 years consecutively. How do you feel about that, Tim?
I'm very proud.
Yeah,
you know, it's a great team, so yeah. I don't take all the credit for sure.
Yeah. You know, my favorite thing actually, and I just have to say this, his website, I'm sure you guys all peruse websites probably like me, but if you go to the Meet the Team page on his website, it's the most fun you'll ever have in about 30 minutes, I have to say. Totally unique, go play, but onward.
It's a little addicting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is addicting, I have
to
say. Yeah. But you know, one of the first things I want to talk about with you is people think about marketing, but they don't necessarily bridge it to HR, and I know that you're doing some new things in terms of HR communications. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, about 1.5 years ago, we started to really focus on how can we help companies in a new way. And we felt that there are two audiences that most companies have that they struggle with as far as really reaching that communication level that we could bring to the table for them. And those are the employees themselves, who oftentimes it's one of the top things that they'll complain about. They're not talking to us enough. They're not giving us enough idea of how we're fitting in the picture. And you know, we're the last to know of this and that. So I think that that's relatively easy to do when you're a professional communicator, but it's real hard when you're an HR person and you're dealing with so many other things. And of course, the other audience is the recruits. And now, as we're coming out of the recession, the talent wars are starting, if they haven't already, in an industry. And I think it's an exciting time. And if companies can see a way in which to efficiently start communicating with those audiences and bring some energy to it, I think they're going to do well.
Right. You know, and it's such a really interesting thing for you to take it that way and go with that perspective, because in my opinion, right, the talent's won. Right? The talent wars were maybe something we talked about, but the talent has won. And right now, it is every business that's working strategically, right, Tim, to get out there and actually get their message out and strongly at the forefront. And so when we think about, and I pitch it all the time, the employee value proposition is as important to every single business as their unique selling proposition. When we think of marketing, we think selling, branding, communicating the message of what's special about what it is that we're selling or our services. But when you spin that on its head and you come back to what I just said about employee value proposition, tie it back to marketing, right? How many businesses are actually using their marketing departments or their marketing initiatives or even thinking of their marketing strategy to tie it to employee value proposition and how they talk to me if I want to come and work for you?
Yeah, in fact, two things are coming to mind when you say that. One is Deloitte just came out with their annual survey of CEOs and what are their biggest issues. Number one is talent acquisition and employee retention this year. So it's top of mind. And I went to a seminar recently, and they actually had 3 people from major companies, and they're saying that the larger companies are now hiring marketing people to work in the HR department to help them craft their message.
Nice.
The middle market space where we play, they can't really afford to do that. Right. So similar to outsourcing your marketing, you can outsource your communications of HR to a company like the Pepper Group.
You know, what's interesting about your comment too is that even some of the biggest organizations that you and I know, whether they be in the middle market, smaller businesses that don't have an internal marketing resource or that expertise, but even some of the bigger businesses that, you know, I get out there and I talk with other people within the 101 best and brightest companies to work for. Some of them are small businesses like yourself that really like to level the playing field, right? But then there's these large businesses, they have an internal marketing department. They have an internal HR team. Why would you think that it's really wise for them to actually come and outsource even still something like this to bring that strategy in? Why would they need to do that?
The third-party viewpoint.
Yeah.
They kind of get stuck in knowing too much, and they don't understand how to, I don't want to say dumb it down, but to simplify it so that the audience absorbs it in the order in which they should and with the energy that they should, because they get a little biased and they know that they're a great place to work. They just don't always communicate it the right way.
Well, and with authenticity. And truly, you know, when you think of the messaging right now, we're all bombarded with noise, just so much noise. how do you break through the noise with some truly genuine messaging? And you do some really creative things with some of your clients. Do you want to talk about maybe some examples?
Oh, sure. With Edlong, for instance, they do dairy flavorings.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing that no one would ever know about until you get involved with it. But their brand is all about their people, and a lot of companies say that our differentiator is our people, but you have to have a proof of claim for that.
Absolutely.
And so as we started to interview their customers and so forth, we would ask them, okay, why do you do business with Edlong? And they would, to a person, said not a product, not a service. It was always because of Stephanie.
Oh, I love that.
It was Bob. It was, Trudy, whoever it was always a person in that answer. And so we took that to heart, and we also started to do a campaign where we had some fun with them. And that's a tribute to our creative director, Cindy, who really brings out a lot from amateurs in the photo studio. But we have a lot of fun. If you go to Edlong's website, you can really see them in action. And that's their brand. You said authenticity. And it's easy for them to do because that is who they are. They don't have to fake it.
Right. And there's nothing more valuable, right, than saying to people who are coming to work for an organization, you see some of that branding, those advertisements, these are our people, these aren't actors, these are actually people that are proud to work here. How powerful is that?
Yeah.
That is just, if that's not the most loudest, proudest, and prideful thing to project out through your messaging, those are missed opportunities across the board, and some businesses will not have the luxury to even have. It's really something. And there's something, you're very much involved in community, and I think we're not talking about tier 1 today necessarily, but I would recommend you check that out as well. When you think of community and you think of the different things that are going on out there, you're somebody that's so much more than just the pepper group. When I look at you, we joke about we didn't have beauty makeup this morning to get the epic glare off of his dome, as he says. But truly, right, it's the radiance. If you ask me, it's the radiance that comes from inside Tim.
Thank you.
It really is. There's something really beautiful about community, and you're somebody who's very intentional about this. And when we think about community and we think about community initiatives, many people take it external. Right? They take it to their backyard, they take it to the not-for-profits, they take it to different ways that we get charitable, but you're taking community into a whole new way of how we look inside an organization, right? And what inside this organization is communal, and what are the missed opportunities there?
Yeah, so you have a captured audience with your employees. Obviously, they all have a connection to each other through that company and the brand and the products and services that you do. But we oftentimes don't realize that we can actually create a little bit more engagement, or as our friend Tom Walter liked to say, entanglement.
Entanglement, I like that word.
And they actually want to be part of a community. They want to trust and know more about the people who they work with, and sometimes who they play with. As we say, a pepper group, you have to work and play with passion.
Or play hard, work hard,
yeah.
Right?
So how do you stimulate that kind of activity? And some companies do a pretty good job of that, but then they don't often communicate it. So, an employee newsletter gets a bad rap because I think oftentimes they're produced poorly. It's not the method, it's actually just the content that wasn't done well. So even something as simple as that, how do you engage all the employees in that, keep them educated about what's going on, raise the pride level, and I always recommend that you send that home in a hard copy so that the family can see what's going on, because you need that support at home, right? And if you have that support at home, if they respect the company you work for, then you're going to have a lot more support when you have to stay late or if you have to come in on a Saturday. It's a great way to do that. So that community, there are so many ways in which they can trade services, if they have relatives who have side businesses and things like that. Trading equipment and things. I have a chainsaw. I use it once a year. Why wouldn't I let my coworkers use it if they wanted to? They don't have to go buy a $300 chainsaw. But you have to stimulate that and facilitate it. And that's what we were aiming to do with companies.
Yeah, strategically facilitating it as well. And I think that that's powerful in terms of the concept, because you could do something organic with it, or you could get really intentional, as we're discussing, and you can even take it a step further in terms of some of the accelerated learning that has to happen in businesses right now, right?
Oh, certainly.
There's no way anymore that we can actually talk about just sending people to seminars and doing it ad hoc, right? There's got to be ways where we're bridging learning and development, but then putting it on cutting edge social media frameworks, right? And building communities around it in terms of maybe knowledge topics or talent clusters. And there's so much opportunity with what you're talking about, so.
With a small company, it's easy to exchange that kind of experience with each other. When someone at the Pepper Group goes to a workshop or a conference or a seminar, they're actually required to come back and share that experience, albeit in a small chunk, but it is a way in which all of us get a little excited about what they were exposed to and maybe what were the takeaways for it. When you have a big company, 200, 300 people, you have to have a method to share that as well. And the investment that we make in training and all these things is huge, right?
Right.
And everyone's looking for a way in which to stretch that out a little bit more. And even if an upper level manager goes to a seminar about something that a factory worker doesn't really have to know, but could find that nugget and be proud about what they're learning and maybe how they're situating their company to be competitive in that area, that's a great thing to share. And it's so easy to do. But again, you have to facilitate it and you have to have the method to exchange that information.
Yeah. And to simplify it, as you say, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Simplifying it is sounds easier than it really is.
That's right. It's an art form.
That is.
It is definitely an art form.
Well, thank you so much for coming out and talking with me today, Tim. It's absolutely a pleasure. Why don't you tell our guests where they can find you?
Well, you can always find us at peppergroup.com. That's easy. And the other company you mentioned, and thank you very much for doing it, is our little startup.
Yeah.
It's called Tier 1, and it's TEER and the number 1. And it's a platform and a methodology for companies to adopt to manage their employee volunteering program.
Which I think is very cutting edge.
That's cool.
Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.